Are you looking to establish a powerful online presence for your brand? Look no further than Live the Dream Media. Our team of experts possess the capabilities and skills necessary to make it happen. From creating compelling content to analyzing data and making strategic decisions, we've got it covered. Don't let a lack of social media know-how hold you back. Visit ltdmedia.net for more information.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Local Marana Podcast. Last episode, we had the Marana Police Department Community Resources here. And today we have another very important community figure here with us from Vision Church. Really good friend of mine. We used to coach football back in the day. My first ride-along with a police officer was with you.
Yep.
And we ended up working together.
Yeah, we did.
So we're going to talk about your story today.
All right.
I want you to share. There's some points I'll bring up. There's some stuff, conversations we've had. And I want you to share your story with the audience today.
Yeah.
And then share what you're doing at Vision Church, why it's important. And then we're going to talk some sports.
Okay.
Towards the end of it. Yeah, it's gonna be something else. But I want you to introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, for sure. My name's Cole Hunter. I am born and raised here in Tucson. I'm a native. I took a 5-year break, lived in North Carolina for a little bit, and moved back about a year ago.
Yeah.
And so back home, and I think this is where we are permanently.
So how was that break in North Carolina? What'd you think of the weather?
I tell you what, humidity is no joke.
Yeah.
No joke. I kid you not. They say it's a dry heat. I used to never, it was like, so's an oven.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, what does that mean? We were in North Carolina for 2 seconds. And we've got 4 kids, and Candace was like our oldest. She was like 7 at the time. Mm-hmm. And we get out, and it's in the thick of summer, and the humidity, and she's never experienced it before, and she's reaching, and she's like, what is wrong with the air? And she's like, Mom, move it. I can't move. Yeah. And we were like, welcome to North Carolina. So that humidity is no joke.
Yeah.
No joke. But it was awesome. It was great being there. I love North Carolina. We were in the Raleigh area, and a lot of great memories there. It's awesome people. Mm-hmm. But to channel my inner Wizard of Oz, there's no place like home. So here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are.
So so you're here.
Yeah.
You leave. Why'd you leave?
Why'd I leave? It's my wife, my parents, her parents.
Yeah.
Pretty much anyone I've ever known has asked that exact same question. No, we were volunteering actually at Vision Church.
Mm-hmm.
Vision Church has been around since 2011.
Okay.
And the senior pastor and founder, his name is Toby Noonan. Him and I have known each other for years. Okay. I always say that our relationship kind of spanned Brady's career, because when this rookie Tom Brady showed up, it's when I started going to church and met him. And then wouldn't you know it, Pastor Toby retires, and Brady retires, and I was joking with him about it the other day, and I was like, man, our relationship pretty much spanned Brady's career. Mm-hmm. But I was volunteering, helping out. He was really just teaching me and mentoring me, and he was the first one that pulled me aside. I was still in high school at the time, but he pulled me aside and said, have you ever thought about ministry as a direction for your life? I really feel like God's called you, God's marked you. Have you ever thought about it? And he didn't know this, but I had been thinking about it. He was the first person to call it out of me and really speak it into existence in my life.
Okay.
And so he's really kind of always had that. I was telling him at his retirement, every door I've ever walked through, God's really had him at the threshold. And so he's always been pointing me in the right direction. So to answer your question, how did we get back to North Carolina? One of the things that he wanted to expose the church to was he understood his limitation, and he embraced it. He said he's a good teacher, but he's not the world's best teacher. But there are phenomenal teachers out there, and who would release their sermons either in a podcast format or would air them online. And it was like, I don't want to keep this to myself. I don't want to recreate it either. Why in the world would I not just direct people to the source? And so he found this really interesting balance where he would do live teachings for a while, like a series, and then he would expose the church to some of the greatest pastors, I think of our day. You've got people like Craig Rochelle, you've got people like Andy Stanley, and one of the pastors that he exposed us to was this, in my opinion, my favorite pastor, this guy named Pastor Stephen Furtick. And it was in 2012. I'll never forget the sermon. It was room 101, Fear's Greatest Hits. And I'd never heard the word of God preached like that. I didn't know anything about Elevation Church in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm going like, where is this? And it's crazy, but it captured me. I got so fixated on it. I was so obsessed with it. And some of it I think had to do with just the newness of that church, but it was also the way that God has absolutely gifted Pastor Stephen to be able to communicate the word of God. I've never heard it this way.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where I start researching Elevation Church, learning their story, and I was like, I got to see this.
Yeah.
I have to see this. And there was an apprenticeship. Now, mind you, I've been married for 5 years, had a great career as a police officer. We had 2 kids at the time, had the perfect, what we would call the American dream, or cul-de-sac Christianity, if you will. I mean, everything was perfect. I had the house, spouse, kids, car, was working on the fence, right? I mean, everything was perfect, but there was this apprenticeship opportunity in North Carolina, and I wanted to go. And it's very difficult to get in. I don't even know why I'm applying for an apprenticeship. I've got a mortgage, I've got a career, I've got everything, but I'm applying for an apprenticeship. And we're invited to go all the way across the country and participate, really apply for this. And it's very difficult to get in. But lo and behold, they invited us to do what they call like a preview weekend to see if this is a good fit. And at the end of it, it was like a thumbs up. Everything's great. However, and I'll never forget this. They said, you have a family. We can say no to you at any time. And if we ask you to come back and turn around in a couple of weeks and say no, to some degree, we own that. That's on us. Yeah. And we don't want to be selfish. And so if you can get back here on your own, by all means, we would love to have you back here. We would love to investigate this, but we're not going to ask you to walk away from your life in Arizona only to turn around potentially a couple of weeks later and say thanks but no thanks, and then you're left to pick up the pieces. And so it was devastating but encouraging at the same time. And I was like, I don't know what it is, but I want to go to North Carolina. I want to go to North Carolina. I want to go. It took 5 years. And you and I are working together at the time. And, and some of it kind of because, I'm learning about faith and God's teaching you along the way. It's one of the things we were talking about in the sermon last weekend is, sometimes the peace that comes in your life is never, we always want to be before, God, give me peace, and then I'll take a step. And God's like, take a step and I'll give you peace. Yeah. And it's peace comes along the way. And so, but I'm still learning. Sometimes you keep that stuff to yourself too. You don't just go and tell everybody, right? Yeah. But I told everybody, I'm going to North Carolina. I'm declaring it. I'm going to North Carolina, stamp, sign, sealed, and approval, man. I'm going. And it wasn't so immediate. It actually took 5 years. But in the meantime, Pastor Toby was like, he's just continuing to mentor. He was one of the few people that wasn't trying to talk me out of it. He'd be the first one to go, it make no sense. But by all means, if that's what God's calling you to do, he was the ultimate encourager. And I love that idea of encouragement. It's the concept of putting courage inside of somebody. If you look at encouragement and discouragement, we think it's kind of on a scale. It's not. There's literally, you're either, if you're not encouraging, then by definition, you're discouraging. Okay. There is no middle ground whatsoever. And I've never forgotten that, but I'm always thinking about my kids, it's like, oh, they know. Do they? My parents, oh, they know. Do they? The people I'm around, do they know? Or
likely not.
Most, I guarantee not. And most of us are walking around every single day operating from empty. We're trying to pour into others, but we have nothing poured into us. And it's like, oh, well, you got to take care of yourself. Well, no, take care of the people around you. Encourage. Literally put courage inside of them by, not embellish. Don't say something that's not true. They can pick that up a mile away. Yeah. And so Pastor Toby is like the master encourager, at least in my life. He's always been that guy. And my parents are very much the same way. And God fortunately placed a handful of people around me who, even though in my mind I'm going, this makes no sense, had enough people who were continuing to make deposits and encourage me to continue to have faith. And lo and behold, fun fact, and this is a job that you'll know very well because you took over for me and did it better. I don't know about that. I do. The school resource officer opportunity was something I had never sought out. Didn't want to do it because we coached football, and this is about 2015, right? And this is one of the, I'd done everything I could to make a way. I'd applied at numerous police departments in North Carolina trying to get back there and just couldn't, for whatever reason, couldn't get back there. And finally kind of washed my hands of it and gave up. This is just how God does things. It's like once we give up and we stop trying to do things in our strength, then he does it in his, and we realize that it's not our will, it's his will. It's not by our power, it's by his. But I'd kind of given up and decided I was going to focus a little bit more on my career and just, I admittedly, I was like, if it happens, great, but I'm going to stay here in Arizona. And I wanted to climb the ladder at the police department. I wanted to promote to LPO, or what we would call a corporal, eventually sergeant, so on. And so that was kind of where I wanted to go in 2015. And then all of the sudden, I get approached with an opportunity about, would you like to be a school resource officer? And it was like, no, I would not, not even a little bit. No. I was like, oh, you coach out there. I think it'd be really good. You should apply for it. I'm like, no, I coach out there. That's why I don't want to do it. I really have no desire. Yeah. And I was certainly wrong. I underestimated what it takes to be a school resource officer, and you certainly know. It's one of the best jobs, I think, in the police department. To be honest with you, one of the most rewarding, without question. Yeah. But I didn't know that at the time, and I declined it. I wanted no part of it. Officer went through the process, ended up getting the opportunity, and it's a freak accident. You know what I mean? Like I don't know what happened. It was just sustained an injury, and it just never really healed at the speed that it needed to. But they had to have somebody out there, and so I kind of got voluntold. Like, hey, love you, mean it. I hear you, but
come here real quick.
Guess what? You're the new SRO. Well, how long? TBD. You will let you know. And what was supposed to be a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months, turned into the best 2 years of my life. Yeah. I got the opportunity to be an SRO at Marana High School. Got to meet a lot of amazing, not only students who are also now young adults today, but I got to meet a lot of amazing teachers, hardworking teachers. You do not realize, I mean, you do, but I don't think people realize just how invested teachers are into their classrooms, into their students, and it's personal.
Yeah, and I want to piggyback on that too, is I don't think people realize how exhausting it is to be in front of an audience all day. All day. Because before I took that position as well, I had no idea what it was like to teach all day or to do that. And in that position, you had to go and teach and present.
You had a lot of hours.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, look, I'll do a day, and I'm like, I'm
done.
These folks still have a whole nother 4 days.
Right. And you got to start I think of all the lesson prep that went into just do one day.
Exactly, yes.
You got to turn around and do it the next day and the next day.
So props to the teachers for sure.
Without question. I mean, some of the hardest working people, most underappreciated people on the planet, in my opinion, of how hard they work. And they never stop. Yeah. They really never stop. Oh, they get, time in the summer. No, they don't. Constantly continuing education, and that's literally just to satisfy the requirements of the state of Arizona. Yeah. Now we're talking about all of the extracurriculars that go into the high school experience. Not to mention that they're trying to hit a moving target every single day because the requirements change, or no one's ever taught in high school as it is today. And these teachers do an amazing job of pivoting or adapting. They always say the best ability is availability. I say no way. The best ability is flexibility.
Absolutely.
And I mean, teachers, if teachers that have been doing it for any length of time have mastered. They have a PhD in flexibility because they know how to do it. Hey, guess what? You're teaching history. I majored in mathematics. Well, guess what? You're teaching history, and they do it. Yeah. They do it, and it's amazing. So props and shout out. And I found a newfound respect for and not just teachers, what high school administrators deal with. Shout to Sarah Whaley, Earl Armstrong, some of the just amazing not just administrators but people that there's so many some people go and they move on to another city, another state, whatever, but a lot of people who are byproducts of either Mountain View or Marana or schools here in the MUSD district, they go on to work here in Marana, and this is home. And a lot of it has to do with some of the hardworking people who are developing this crop, this generation in this time. And man, Marana, I know I had to work indirectly with Mountain View a little bit. Yeah. Got some just top-notch people. And that's why I say it was the best 2 years of my life. It was just, I absolutely loved that job. It's like, okay, what does that have to do with your story? A lot. It's actually, it's kind of the springboard, because remember, I had been trying to get to North Carolina forever and a day, and just could not figure out how to do it. And, because I don't change my email, I don't change my phone number, I don't change anything. I've been on Indeed. And if you know the way Indeed works is you become a profile match, right? You have the opportunity for people to pick you or, select you, or for employers to look for candidates if they have a specialized position or something that they're looking for. And, the grant had finished, and, they found my replacement, and it was just this guy. You've met him.
Yeah.
His name's David Samarana.
Yeah.
And dude, you crushed it. You absolutely crushed it.
Thanks, man.
You did phenomenal out there. So many people. I remember I'd run into people and they're like, Officer Samarana? I go, yeah, I've met him. They're like, yeah, he was an awesome SRO. And I'm just like, yeah,
ouch.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Exactly. But no, it was cool because, I finished being an SRO and I had the opportunity to get back into patrol, and I was working my way up. I promoted to LPO, and I was getting ready to test for sergeant. That was really my next development step. And then I get this random email that I'm not expecting at all. And it's from some police department in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And it was actually a phone call. I was working nights at the time. And it was, I got the interest. I had submitted the application. I don't know why I submitted the application. I really don't. To this day, and my wife and I talk about this. Like, why did you submit the application? It's like, I really don't know. It just would not go away.
Yeah.
It kept showing up. And so ultimately, it was kind of one of those, like, I didn't know why I was doing it at the time, and I just did it, never thinking it's going to work. I'd submitted 100 of these things. Why would I do it?
Yeah.
And I'm going to lay down. I'd gotten off one night, and it's in the middle of summer, and those nights where the sun comes up at like 4.
Those hurt, like, man. Those
I still got 3 hours left in my shift. This is not cool. And I'm going to lay down, and the phone rings, and it's a number I did not recognize. I'd never seen this number before, and I was just let it go to voicemail. I don't know. I don't care. And it was, I don't know what it was. It was just like, pick that phone up. And so I picked it up, and it was the chief of police of an agency in North Carolina. It was in Nightdale, and said, "Look, I'm just going to level with you. You're either going to receive this or not." He goes, but he says, "We have an SRO vacancy, and I'm looking at your resume, and I'm a man of faith, and I just really feel like God's telling me to give you a call. Oh. Does that make any sense to you at all?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm awake now. Let's talk."
Yeah.
And I ended up hopping on a plane and flying across the country and went through the testing process with them. And they said, "Look, we have an opportunity. It's kind of on you whether you want it, but if you want it, we'll offer you. Mm-hmm. We'll offer you the position." And Ange and I came home. My wife and I, we went back and forth, and it was like, you know what? Now, if not now, when? This is kind of that rubber meets the road moment of, do I believe that God's leading us back here? And that's how we want things to be, right? We want them to be immediate. We look at someone like Moses. In my life, in my mind, Moses was someone who was just like, he was in position. He was young. He was in Egypt. He's going to lead God's people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. And in my mind, when he has his position, when he has his youth, that would be the time to do it, right? That's the most advantageous time to do it. No. It's actually when he's older, when he's lost all of his prestige, when he's had some stuff happen to him. Mm-hmm. God says, "Okay, now's when." Yeah. And so often we want, it doesn't make sense. It didn't happen this way, and all these variables that I thought was going to help get me there. That's the way it had to be done. I guess it's not going to happen for me. And oftentimes it happens later in life. Oftentimes it happens on the backside of our mistakes. Oftentimes it happens when we least expect it. Yeah. And that was certainly the case for me. It was kind of at the end of my strength is where God's strength began. And it was that, okay, are we going to do this? Yes or no? It's like, what is this? Are we going to move all the way across the country, take the same job for less money for a chance at getting on staff at one of the largest churches in the world? 99, most people say no way. But when God stirs your heart, when God when God is continuously keeping something top of mind, when God is calling you, it makes you sick not to do it. Mm-hmm. You just have to do it. Yeah. And we took the leap of faith at the expense of some relationships, because people just like, you're dumb. Like, why would you do this? But we ultimately ended up going across the country. And it wasn't like there was a ticker tape parade. It wasn't everybody's like, yeah, you guys are here. No one knew, no one cared. You know what I mean? Like, it was get to work. And we ended up finding a location there. Elevation's got locations all up and down the East Coast, but they had a couple in the Raleigh area. They're based out of Charlotte, but they had a couple in the Raleigh area, and it was like 10 minutes from where we were staying. Mm-hmm. So we ended up getting there and meeting some of the most just amazing people. The staff there is top notch. Top notch human beings. And the cool thing of it is they all have the same, a similar story in some way. They're They're a normal person just like you and I, who were crazy enough to ask God for the impossible. They were crazy enough to be obedient to the prompt that God was giving them, and God has continued to bless them and put people in positions. And we just saw that time and time again. And it took a couple of years, but ultimately we ended up on we ended up on staff. And that's a long story for another day of how that came to fruition. But ultimately, it took a couple of years, but we ended up on staff at Elevation. And in my mind, like it's very, very fairy tale ending, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we had a great house. Angela's parents ended up moving across the country. They lived they were within walking distance. I mean, it was perfect. Best job in the world, but hands down, best job in the world. I didn't have to go work for a day. I loved it. I loved what I did. I loved the people. I loved what I did. It was amazing. Why would I leave? I would never leave. I'm never leaving ever. And then it was 2 Super Bowls ago. It was the day after Brady and the Bucs beat the Chiefs. Yeah. I get a phone call from Pastor Toby. Hey, kind of seed of an idea here. And he says, would you ever consider coming back to Vision and becoming the lead pastor? Retirement's on the horizon. Wow. Would you ever consider this? And it was like, wow, thanks, flattered. No. Not even a little bit.
I didn't even think you just said no.
Not even a little bit. Like, and there was no hesitation. It wasn't like, well, let me think on it and pray on it. It was a solid no. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, I'm honored. I would love to talk with you. I'd love to continue to catch up. We haven't talked to each other in a couple of years. Hadn't seen each other. Man, it's awesome. Congratulations on moving on, but find somebody else. No. And one of his greatest qualities is he's persistent. And it was a couple months later, because we'd engaged in dialogue, and he ends up hopping on a plane and flying out to Raleigh. And we started talking, and we talked the potential and the possibility. And I said, look, I want to show you why I'm telling you no. And I had the opportunity to show him what I get to do every single day. Yeah. Every single day. I was like, why would I walk away from this? I love this. These are some amazing people. The impact is huge. The impact is phenomenal. I mean, I remember I had one day, I started the day up in Martinsville, Virginia with Convoy of Hope, the Joey Logano Foundation, helping outreach, providing boxes and months worth of food to families in need. Went down to Charlotte because there was some churches in the area that were coming in, get a chance to walk them through of, hey, think of it like a conference. How can we help you with what your needs are? Yeah. And by the end of the day, I was on a Zoom call with a church in Taiwan. That was a day.
That's cool.
I was every day like that. I loved it. Yeah. My kids loved it. My wife loved it. I loved the people. It was like, I'm not leaving this. A couple months later, in June, I told him no twice. Twice I told him no. In June, he says, hey, and why don't you come out here and just see it? Just. I'm like, I've seen it. I know it. I've been there. I used to patrol the area. Like, I know it, man. Yeah. Like, there's nothing to see. And he's like, well, just come and see. And he kept saying it, just come and see. Well, he didn't know as I was planning on coming and visiting my folks anyway. And it was like, well, why not? Mm-hmm. I wasn't intending to go. I'll go. Yeah. And so I told him, I said, yeah, we'll come out. And he put us on a plane. He ended up covering our airfare. And we came out, and he got me. He says, hey, being that you're going to be here and all, would you mind teaching? My first thought was, I'm not going on vacation to teach. That's a lot of work. Yeah. We were talking about lesson plan. It's a lot of work to put a sermon together. I always say I don't feel good about it if I haven't put at least 20 hours into it. And wow. I think some put more. Yeah. I know some pastors put in a minimum of a week. Whew. One of the things, I was starting to get into this, but I was learning kind of secondhand. I mean, every single word is important, and for every, I could be butchering this number, but I know it's fairly close. I think it's for every minute that Pastor Stephen preaches, he's probably studied an hour. Wow. That's how much he has devoted himself to what God has called him to do, or his craft. And I believe that has a lot to do, not to mention his prayer and his faith and the excellence in which he operates. But I believe his dedication is a lot of the reason why God has continued to bless the ministry there in Charlotte and Elevation Church. And I've never forgotten that. I'm like, man, I would love to get to that level. I'm working on it, getting there. But embrace your limitation. And so I was like, do you want to? I was going to decline and say no. I was like, no, you know what? I'll do it. Why not? And I ended up coming back here and getting the opportunity to teach that weekend, fully intending to say no. Mm-hmm. Fully intending to saying, I appreciate it, but still no. But thanks for the opportunity. It was great to come home. Yeah. And I mean, even they were doing Saturday and Sunday at the time, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. And it was Saturday night. I finished and I had every intention. I was out there in the courtyard, and I don't know what it was, man. I don't know if it was the sunset just hit the Catalinas the right way. I don't know what it was, but there's a lot of people in this courtyard. And I caught my wife, I caught her gaze. And she looks right at me, and she mouths the same thing to me. She's like, and she mouthed, "This is home." And I'm like, I know. And we went out to dinner that night. We drove around, and like, is this what God's asking us to do? It was not in my plan. It was not what I wanted to do, but is this what God's asking us to do? The more we prayed, the more we thought, and the more we gave him control. That's what the phrase, I mean, giving your life to Christ means, God, I'll be in the car, but you're driving.
Yeah.
And sometimes we put ourselves in the car and we ask God to co-sign our plans, and then he never does, and we get mad at him going, I took a step of faith. He goes, no, you took your step of faith. You weren't, I've been talking to the church about, we have this phrase that's in our vernacular, and it's so easy to say, I'm going to do this for God. It's like, don't do anything for God. Do everything with God. With God. Constant prayer, constant state of worship, constant state of surrender, on and on. One of my favorite verses in the Bible is 3 words, pray without ceasing. Pray without ceasing, 1 Thessalonians. Everything. You wake up, pray. You go to work, pray. We start a podcast, pray. That's what I was doing, before I got here, driving around, is just driving around, kind of making the loop around, Cortero, Ino, Thornydale, and the freeway, is praying. What do you want to say? What do you want to do? Everything has been, and it's scary because when you give someone control, and at best, and the Holy Spirit prompts you, you're like, 60% sure at best? Yeah. I don't know. But peace never comes before faith. It's always after. And so Ange and I thought about it, hopped back on a plane, and made the decision. So yeah, we're coming back. And then I had the fun task, and I never in a million years thought I would do this, but I sat down and I wrote out a resignation letter to Pastor Stephen and Elevation Church. And I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing? This doesn't make any sense. Why would I walk away from this? I love this. And it's that war between your head and your heart. In my head, I can stay here, but my heart's telling me, and I don't know why. I don't agree. I didn't even agree with it. I love it here. I really love it here. But when you're called, it's you have compassion. You're compelled. The Greek is the word splagnidzomai. You feel it in your gut. You know that gut feeling. You're sick to your stomach if you don't do it. That's the feeling. I'm compelled to go.
Yeah. So that's the feeling you get if you don't do it, right? You get
exactly.
That sick. But then there's this other feeling of when you do it. And it's the fear.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Right? What did I just leave? I had everything that I thought I needed.
Right.
I was in a good spot. I was happy.
Yep.
I was able to buy whatever I wanted.
Yep.
For the most part. Right?
Yeah, we were great. We had a pool in the backyard. It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
And you talk about that war. It's literally a war.
Oh, no doubt.
It's not a one-day battle. And you know what? Hey, we're good.
No,
it's great.
Ongoing.
It continues.
It never stops. It still continues.
Yeah.
We've been here a little over a year, and there's still days I go home and I go, did I make the right decision?
Yeah.
Did I make the right decision? I mean, I was talking about a week. I call it's tension, right? We get stuck in this tension between what I want to do, what feels natural, right? Versus, no, this is what God's calling me to do. And the formula of growth is a formula of time under tension. You work out. I mean, how big are you going to get if you take this water bottle and you just sit here all day? I'm working out. I've got my elbow tight, right? I'm doing this. Here I go. Like there's no tension. I can do this for days.
Yeah.
Right. You want to get strong, you got to create tension. You've got to put some weight on this.
Yeah.
And not too much, because if you put too much on, you hurt yourself. But just enough that's going to keep you in a constant state of focus, going to keep you in a constant state of growing. And if you continue to stay in that rhythm day in and day out, time after time after time, that's where you're going to see growth, because growth is a formula of time under tension. And
time under tension.
Time under tension. And when you take that step of faith, right, and the fear still shows up. And we want the fear to go away. Eliminate the fear. I took the step of faith. The fear should go away. It never does. No. It never does. No. The fear does put you in a position to continue to grow, because you see, we're looking at our life. I know I'm looking at my life. All of us, we're looking at. We have just right here. I have enough to take the next step.
Yeah.
We have a Heavenly Father who has gone way out and can see way beyond, and goes, "You're gonna need strength in this season for the opportunity in the next, and then the next, and the next, and the next." And that's what I tell people around me. So I tell my wife, that's what I tell our staff is, don't run from the tension. Don't run. Run right towards it. But don't lift the bar. You know, you're a pretty big guy. You know how to squat, you know how to bench. Or we'll take the police officer approach to it, right? How often would we pull officers aside if they would go into calls by themselves if they didn't need to? We never, ever, never. There's no such thing as a lone wolf, lone ranger here. You know, John McClane, all that stuff. Yeah. That's for TV. Yeah. We don't do that here. You go in together. You go with somebody. It's a dangerous situation. Anytime that we would interview somebody, it's I want to see you, you see me. We would control the atmosphere. We would control the environment, right? Never did this alone. And anytime an officer did that, we were very quick to go. We pulled them aside and go, absolutely not. You do not do that. Here's why. It's dangerous. Why in the world would we do that? Something God's calling us to. Why would we go in by ourselves? We constantly go in. It's difficult. We're under tension, but that's why you have to stay in that constant state of prayer. That's why you have to stay in that constant posture of worship. God, where are you leading me? God, where are we going? I don't want to wrestle with you. I want to embrace you. You know, that was the tension, which don't get me started, but I'll start Jacob and Israel and all that stuff. It's a great story in Genesis. You should read it. But, you know, it's Jacob was the trickster because he would embrace God to wrestle with God. And then once he kind of figured it out, he would hold the same posture, but it wasn't to wrestle with God. It was to embrace God. And that's when he became Israel. Another story for another day.
Hey, from this podcast, you know, there may be viewers that are going to come to hear that story.
Yeah, no doubt.
You know, visit Vision Church.
I would love to. And it's an ongoing story. Ongoing story. We're talking about it this weekend. You know, that's why you have to I always say take notes. Take notes, man. You start speaking, taking notes all the time. We were you know, Clint's in the other room. Happy birthday, Clint.
Yeah, happy birthday, Clint.
Happy 21st. but he was talking about this. You know, we were prepping and we were setting mics and stuff up beforehand. We were just talking. Yeah. Right. And he hits the record button. Why does he do that? Because it's never what you sit down to focus on. It's always the stuff that you figure out along the way. It's always sometimes the richest stuff that you talk about is not in the time frame that you plan for it to be. And so you never know when the Holy Spirit's going to talk to you. You never know. And that's why you always have to take notes. You always have to be ready because what God's going to do may never ever be in the box that you expect it to be in. It oftentimes will show up when you don't expect it. More times than not, it will show up when you don't expect it. And you have to be ready. You have to be ready because God doesn't work on our timetable. Sometimes when it feels like God's late, no, he's actually just right on time. Yeah. And all it takes is one variable to change to go, thank goodness we did this on your timetable, not mine, because it would have been so messed up if we'd have done it on my timetable. And so coming back here to Tucson, we've been here a little over a year. Yeah, the fear doesn't go away. Not at all. But it's that constant state of prayer. It's that constant relying on, like, if this is my strength, it will fail. If I'm back here because of what I'm doing, if this isn't you and only you alone, this will absolutely fall apart. That I don't believe for a second that what God is doing at Vision Church, or certainly what God is doing through me or the people that have come around, I don't believe it's in our strength. It's not a sightseeing tour. It's not a hobby. It's not even a job, to be honest with you. It's a lifestyle. It is an absolute lifestyle. We love every aspect of what we get to do every single day. We that's language. It's like, you know, and I learned this from Elevation and Pastor Stephen. You know, it's I have to go to work. No, you don't. You don't have to. You don't have to get a paycheck either. You don't have to get a mortgage.
I do that to people too. Just quit, then.
It's quit.
Don't go.
Right. Don't go.
Like,
you don't have to.
I gotta go. I gotta pay the bills. I gotta do this. You know.
Yeah. You talk about your job. You know, you may hate your job. You know, I have to go to work. No, you don't. No, you don't. And tell it to somebody who's trying to find a job right now. Yeah. Who can't work. How much would they? You know, they're watching their savings deplete. They're doing the mental math problem of okay, at what point do we have to sell the house? Where do we go? Where do I find a job? All that stuff, right?
You're hitting perspective now.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. So we had a camera go out, so we had to fix that real quick. But we were talking about perspective. We were getting into talking about I have to go to work today, and you were talking about no, you don't, and then you were talking about the person that's looking for the job. Yeah. Like how they would feel. So let's.
Yeah, it all fits together. It's the perspective. It's how you view something. That's all perspective is. You might see, what is perspective? It's illusions. How are you viewing it? You have this vantage point, but somebody else may have a different vantage point. And it's if you can learn to see it from a different perspective, a different vantage point, a different point of view, that's where you begin to see the entirety, or what we would call in the police department, the totality of something, not just one version of it.
Yeah.
And that's where you can begin to become flexible. That's where you can begin to understand, because you don't like your job, but you have one. You have insurance, and you have retirement, you have income, and you can pay for a lifestyle. Somebody who can't find a job, and they're not lazy, they're looking, they just can't find one. They would give anything to be in your position. And all it takes to see your job differently is to take a second and look at it from their perspective.
Yeah.
If we invite more people to the table, and if we do what we can to gain different perspectives, it's going to put us in a better position. Take Clint, for example. Clint's in here. He's watching this, right? He's checking the audio level on your mic, my mic, these two cameras. He's looking at it all. You and I are fixated on this conversation. He's looking at everything. That camera goes out. Now, without Clint, somebody else to give us his perspective, you and I just keep talking. You go to post edit, and you're like, well, dang it. Now what do I do? And you're looking for B-reel footage, and you're trying to fill it, and you're trying to fix it. But we had somebody else give us a different perspective that can walk in and go, hey, real quick, time out. Let's fix this, and puts you in a better position to move forward with what you set your hand to.
Yeah.
And it's the same concept with perspective. We need to have other people around us. We need to have other people in our corner. You should never be the smartest person in the room. You should always have you should always have somebody else that can continue to give you a different perspective. You have to receive that. You have to listen to it. Doesn't mean you always agree with it. Doesn't mean you even agree with it right now. But if you have people that can give you a different perspective, you have people that can come in and give you a different view or a different angle or a different side of things, it puts you in a position. And I know me personally, I'm a human being. You're a human being. We're all human. There are times when I'm like, yeah, God's going to do it. This is amazing. And I believe it and I feel it because I'm in this constant state of prayer, but I'm human. There are other times where I go, holy crap,
what is going on here?
What am I doing here, man? Why am I here? The fear, right?
Yeah.
And I have somebody around me, whether it's my wife, whether it's my guy Brandon. This fool moved out to North Carolina. I'm going before you do. I'm like, why? Why? I tried to talk him out of coming to Arizona. I'm like, you do not want to come. It's different. It's hard. It's a dry heat. It's
a dry heat.
There's no chicken, dude. Everything's Mexican food, by the way. He gets it now.
Yeah.
I'm like, Mexican food's awesome. He's like, what's the big deal? Now you know what the big deal is, bro.
Oh yeah.
It's amazing. And but he came out here before, and there are times where he pulls me aside and helps give me a perspective that I can't see, or someone like Tyler pulls me aside. Tyler's a guy that I want to introduce you to at some point, but he's someone that has just, for no other reason, but God knew. God put him in position. He's been able to pull me aside. He attends Vision Church, and he doesn't realize that he's a leader. He doesn't realize it. He will never take that. He's the epitome of humble. But there have been so many times that he's been the one that's been continuing to encourage me. And we're not sitting here. It's like, well, you're the pastor. What's a volunteer doing encouraging you? It's like, well, I don't view it that way.
Yeah, don't throw the titles, right?
Titles are what? What do titles mean? What he doesn't realize is the best sermon that was preached that week was the one on Tuesday, where he's sitting there and it was just him and me. And if we limit ourselves, or if we identify ourselves by a title, then we're limiting our perspective. We're limiting what can be done. But if we zoom out, we can begin to see things from different perspectives. And all of a sudden, he views his position as, hey, I have an opportunity to give input. Now, all of a sudden, everything around you can continue to be better. And so whatever your frustration is, that's what I constantly try to remind myself, other people. Whatever your frustration is, flip it. Flip it all the time. One of the ways, an obstacle is just an opportunity. Every obstacle is just a hidden opportunity, but you have to see it from a perspective. We would understand contact and cover, right? Yep. There's a difference between contact and cover.
Huge difference. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some of us is actually contacting the other person. If I'm contacting somebody, my job is to contact them. I'm talking. I'm fixated on them. Your job as my cover officer is to look at everything that I'm not looking at, right? Putting you in a position to be able to see something that I can't see can keep not only me safe, the person I'm talking to safe, can keep a potential. It keeps problems from happening. It keeps it at the level of just a potential problem. Yeah. Whereas if you're not there and it's all contact and no cover, all of a sudden it can blow up. It can get so out of hand. And so oftentimes it's like, well, the primary officer, the contact officer, right? That's the most important officer on the call. Not even close. Who cares? Yeah. And it might be, the rookie on the squad. You might have a captain or a lieutenant or a sergeant right out there, and they're seniored and they're decorated and they know what they're doing. But the rookie walks in and he takes the role of cover officer. He's like, I don't know, it's my first day, but I'm sure that guy over there pointing a gun at us is bad.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Then his position of cover officer, rookie cover officer, first day just became the most important. Could you imagine if the sergeant's like, hey, know your role.
Yeah.
Know your role. I'm talking. Okay.
It's a bad day.
Right? Perspective. Perspective is just inviting different vantage points into the room, inviting different vantage points into the season, doing it together.
Yeah.
What's the church? Doing it together.
Yeah.
It's not an organization. It's not a building. It's not this group or that group. It's people.
Yeah.
It's people who have a voice, have a perspective. Doesn't mean that the voice that speaks up is always right. And it might be the right idea, wrong season. That's the other thing too. We said, no, it's this idea in this season. No. And it's not being afraid to give a good idea. That's half the reason. So many people have so many good ideas. That's why we were talking about, I can't remember her name, Marielle, your friend beforehand. We were talking about, this is your like roughly 250 podcasts y'all have done. Mm-hmm. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, thanks.
Most people stop after like 3.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's hard.
It's
hard.
Heck yeah.
It's just like everything else, right? It takes consistency.
Trial, error, mistakes, figuring it out.
Yeah.
How do they do that, right? And I was asking you, and it's not fair to put you on the spot. I said, well, give me one of your memorable. Give me some memorable one. And you didn't even hesitate. You brought her up. Mm-hmm. You brought her up and talking about just how it was why it was memorable and how you remember it and how it was fantastic. It was a fantastic podcast. And it's bringing other people to the table. It's bringing other people in, and it's not being afraid to try something. It's not being afraid to jump into something. It's not being afraid, not telling, not saying no.
Yeah.
I'm going to say yes. And she ends up being one of the 250, one of the most memorable. But how often do we talk ourselves out of good ideas? How often do we punt? How often do we quit? How often do we let go? Because of that fear, we don't want to grow in that tension. We don't even want to get in that tension. We just want to be comfortable. Mm-hmm. There's so many different elements that go into what God's calling you to do, or what your dreams are, what you're believing. And so often we're so quick to just bail. And I'll be the first one to admit, the only reason I've ever been able to continue to follow what God's doing in my life is not because of a Lone Ranger mentality. I've had people around going, hey, let's get lunch. Hey, let me pray for you. Hey, let me encourage you. Hey, let me remind you of God's promise. Let me keep you in that constant state of prayer. It's a lifestyle. Mm-hmm. It's not a hobby. It's a lifestyle. You wake up, you think about it. You go to bed, you think about it. And that's why I love what I do at Vision. What's God doing at Vision? I don't know, ask him. But I'm going to be obedient to what he's given me to do right now. Yeah. What he's given me to do right now. There's a lot of great people around, and I'm grateful every single day I wake up. I love what I do.
How do people get in touch with Vision? How do they?
A couple different ways. First way is our website, thevisionchurch.com. Okay. There's a contact us button, and it's like, where does that go? My email. My email or our staff's email goes to a Google Sheet, and I pride myself in an immediate response, being able to get back. I say no less than 24 hours. If it comes through and you get the notification, do it immediately. Yeah. Do not let the end of the day come. At a minimum, cannot. It has to be 24 hours. Yeah. You have to respond within 24 hours, and here's the reason why. What was I talking about earlier? Holy Spirit doesn't do things on our timetable. Mm-hmm. Somebody gets that prompt, I'll get back to them. You don't ever take people for granted, ever. Yeah. Somebody goes through the process of actually clicking a button take the time to get to know someone. Honor is giving weight to the action that somebody took. Yeah. We want to honor that person by the step that they took to say, hey, I have a question, or I want to learn something. And we can't take people for granted, man. Yeah. You really can't. And so that's the best way to do it. thevisionchurch.com. We're at 7511 North Benet Drive. It's nice. Like, where is that, right? Yeah. Do you know where Crossroads Park is at Cortero and Silverbell, or Lehman Academy? We are literally right across the street. Follow Benet up, and we are on the right. There you go. Follow the music. Yeah. There will be some music. And we try to keep it at a good decibel level, because I know about the noise ordinances here, and so we don't want the neighbors to not like us, but I don't like people coming to a dry, dead building. So there's always music going around. It's like, oh, is it Christian contemporary? It's like, no. It's, if Dude Perfect plays it, we're probably doing the same thing.
Well, you know what? That was powerful, man. You know, you covered a lot of stuff that people feel all the time, and they might not know how to navigate through it. They might not have the answer to it. They might not have any type of resource to go to for it, whether they don't have family, they're short on friends, especially with what happened over the last couple of years.
Oh, no doubt.
Was definitely like it just was an unfortunate way of isolating individuals and keeping community kind of at bay. Having that information that you just gave on how you got to where you are and how you thought and your perspective and trusting God.
Right.
It's just huge. It's powerful. I think, listeners that hear this are gonna understand a lot more.
Right.
The one thing that I want to talk about is, and I tell this to my wife and I tell this to my friends all the time, because people will get super, super excited and into something that they want to do or they're trying to accomplish. And I always have this saying, I'm like, you want it too bad.
Mm-hmm.
You want it way too bad. Or somebody wants a job or they want some opportunity to come up. Like, you want it way too bad. And I've been there and I still hit those moments sometimes where I'm like, I'll recognize and I'll kind of get like weary because I'm like, I want this too bad.
Right.
And I kind of take a step back and go, okay, what else is going on around here?
There it is.
Because you brought that up. You need to take a step back. What else is going on around here? I'm fixated on getting that done or obtaining that. And all too often I see it not work out for people.
Yeah.
And they're crushed. Mm-hmm. And that's it.
Yeah. And here's the interesting thing about that. You actually were so fixated on where you thought you had to get to that you missed the opportunity. The opportunity walked right by you.
Yeah.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. The tunnel vision that happens that we get.
Yeah.
We talk officers all the time.
You didn't see that? No.
No. Because the party lights went on and I had to get there.
Yeah.
Right. But there's a 5-minute delay between said accident, calling 911, dispatcher, call center, get to our computer. Information could be 3 to 5 minutes old. And you're so fixated in tunnel vision on the place that I'm going, the dude you're looking for walked right by. And man, how true is that in everything that we do? I'm so fixated. I'm gonna be a rapper. Didn't realize that you had the opportunity to be, in my opinion, one of the best podcasters I've seen. I've told you numerous times.
Oh man, I appreciate it.
I watch LTD and I'm like, that's the Joe Rogan podcast.
Thanks for that, man. I really appreciate that.
I know you never brag on yourself because you're humble, but let me brag on you for a second. I mean, what you're doing is awesome. You don't do 250 of these things. You just don't.
Yeah.
Most people don't make it past 10. Most people, they really don't. 3 if they're curious, 10 if they're dedicated, 25, 50 if they've got some resource.
Yeah.
Y'all are over 250 and growing.
Yeah.
And growing. And I think 2 things. Number 1 is you haven't made it about yourself. It's not about LTD.
Yeah.
It's about you're putting others ahead of you. You're trying to feature other people. And it's that idea of he who glorifies himself will be humbled. He who humbles himself will be glorified.
Yeah.
And you guys at LTD, you and Clint, you've taken that posture, and here you guys are, 250 in, 250 podcasts in. Like, dude, that's awesome. And I think many more to come.
Yeah.
Many more to come, because it's
hoping so.
You were not so fixated on this is the direction of my life. You were open, not only open, brave enough. Yeah. Brave enough to open yourself up to what else is possible. Yeah. There's a lot of people who are watching. There are a lot of people who are listening. Wondering. They look at everything that they're doing every single day. They put their head down on their pillow at night. They're kind of get that gaze as they're at the dinner table. They're zoned out and they're taking inventory of their life. And so many people take their God-given passions, their God-given abilities to the grave because they were never brave enough to take the step and wonder, what if you walked away from a great job as a police officer? No guarantee. Whole lot of potential, no guarantee. Yeah. Y'all are 250 episodes in because you navigated the tension, you navigated the fear, you took the step of faith, you were obedient to the passion that God put inside of you. And there's so many people that have this passion, they have this gift. Me and Pastor Toby laugh at this because I said, vision, what's your mission statement? What's the mission statement? What are we trying to accomplish? And it's like helping people see who Jesus really is. I said, great, what's the vision? He goes, we don't have one. I said, that's the most ironic thing in the world, man. Vision has no vision statement, but where there is no vision, people perish. Yeah, right? Absolutely. And so I became just rock solid fixated on a vision. Like, okay, God, what is the vision? And it's the same thing that you're wondering, that I'm wondering, that anyone who's listening to this, we all have this exact same. We have a passion inside of us. There's things that you're good at. I mean, yes, you put in a lot of hard work, but there's some degree of natural ability that you have. You've continued to unearth it, you've continued to unpack it, you've continued to develop it, you've continued to perfect it through mistakes. Yep. But you've made progress. You're growing and you're adding to your natural ability that was God given. There's certain things we can't do. I can't cook. It's not a natural ability. I could try as hard as I want to.
But you can communicate.
I can communicate. It's something that God gifted me to do, and it helped me in the police department, but it wasn't what I was called to do.
And look at you now.
I was called to do this. Yeah. And it's the same thing. Every single person Why should I come to Vision? Why should I go to any church? Why should I come to Vision? Everything that we do, it points people to Jesus Christ, but not just to have a relationship with him and get a golden ticket into heaven and great, you're in the army now, go get other people. No. But God put that passion inside. He put that, Jeremiah, the book of Jeremiah talks about before God formed you in your mother's womb, he knew you. Knew everything he deposited, everything that he created inside of you, every potential. He knew all of it. He knew the arsenal that he put together in you. And people know what's inside of them. They know their gifts. They know their abilities. And sometimes what frustrates them is their unrealized potential. What we want people to see at Vision Church, we want them to come and see why God chose you. See why God chose you. That's why we don't have a 5-step cookie cutter plan. Okay, well, you come to Vision, you give your life to Christ, and then you join this group and you volunteer on this team and you pass this class. That's crap. Like, can we just say it? Like, I'm just gonna say it. It's junk. Yeah. It really, really is. What's your next step? I don't know, because you're not a cookie cutter human. Because there's no cookie cutter humans, there can't be cookie cutter plans. Someone found out the perfect plan to and this is going to work for you, and it doesn't, man. It doesn't. Some people, you know what their next step is? Because you just talked about it. The last couple of years, recalibrated everything for everyone. Sometimes the next step for somebody, dude, let's go to a hockey game. Yeah. Let's go catch the Roadrunners and just get to know each other. It's not it can't be transactional. Yeah. It can't be, okay, come and let's get you involved in this thing, or let's do. Dude, what do you like to do? What do you like to do? What do you believe in God for? What is the thing? This is the last nugget that I got from Pastor Stephen. Your misery, what makes you miserable? What is it? That's probably your ministry. So we tell our small group leaders all the time, what's your passion? I like studying the Word of God. Nobody does. And it's like, aren't you a pastor? Yes, we have more Bible knowledge than we know what to do with, dude. We are the most educated generation.
That only goes so far.
It's exactly. It doesn't. What is it? It doesn't go anywhere. So the most life-changing people in Scripture most of them were illiterate, right? Jesus met you where you were. I love that Peter was a fisherman. Cool, go be fishers of men. What was your passion? What was your ability? Cool, utilize that. Find your passion. Find your people. Invite the Holy Spirit. You may just stumble into your purpose. Yeah. What do you like to do? Bible, and there's nothing wrong with Bible studies. Okay, don't misunderstand me. I love studying the Bible as much as anybody. I inundate myself in it. It's phenomenal. But it's the equivalent of, like, I like food too. A lot of it. If I just eat, don't do anything with it, I'm going to become obese and overweight. Right? You have to at some point put that into practice, and it doesn't always happen through the same 3 categories that we create. You have to volunteer on a team. You have to volunteer in your community, and that's. Yeah, you know what? Maybe it's just utilizing your passion and inviting other people into it. And the most powerful conversation that you have is not going to be around, unpacking and exegeting the book of Exodus. Yeah, it might be around the water cooler playing pickup basketball. It might be at the gym. Yeah, because it was the unplanned moments. That's when the Holy Spirit shows up. That's when all of a sudden it's the thing I've been needing to hear my whole life. I just heard from the guy that was spotting me on the bench. I wasn't ready for it. I was just coming here to work out and do chest. And I realized that God just unlocked something through this person. Yeah. That's why it starts with a conversation. You got to be willing to have a conversation. You have to be willing to tell your story. Yeah. We're willing to listen. What's the next step? We'll figure it out along the way. Because that's where God shows up along the way. He told Abram, go to the land I will show you. Where is it? Go. Just go. And I'll show up along the way. That's what he did.
Hey, Cole. We're pressed for time.
For sure.
It's already almost been an hour.
know, right?
It's been so great. But before we go, I want to cover this, okay? I was like, we're going to talk a little bit of sports before we go.
Let's do it.
Who's winning the Super Bowl and why?
Oh, man, this is tough. I'm going to go Philly.
Okay.
Philly's going to win the Super Bowl. Here's why. I believe as much as I love the Chiefs and I love their offense is very difficult to stop. Yeah. Very, very difficult to stop. I mean, who do you cover? Do you cover Mahomes? Do you cover Kelsey? If not, they're going to beat you over the top. They've got a great running game. Philly's got a front 4. They really have a front.
The trenches, yeah.
They do. They have a front 4, and Mahomes is a little bit hobbled. I know he's got a little bit of time to recover, but quite frankly, I don't believe that the Kansas City defense can stop Hurts. I do believe that the Philly defense can stop the Chiefs' offense. So it's because of the vulnerability in the Chiefs' defense. That's why I believe. That's why I got Philly. As painful as it is for me to say that I'm pulling for Philly and I got Philly. Philly. I wanted the Bengals to go, but
Yeah.
that's another story.
Yeah, they just couldn't get it done, man.
They couldn't, man. It was they couldn't get it done, but it'll be fun to watch. I'm looking forward to it.
So I'm going to counter you on that.
Okay.
I'm going to say Chiefs.
All right.
Greatness is defined in these moments, and
No doubt.
I think that Mahomes is going to show greatness.
Yeah.
That day. I don't think. I like how Jalen Hurts plays, but something's wrong with Jalen Hurts.
You think so?
Yeah, there's definitely something off, right? The stats. If you look at the stats over the last couple of weeks, there's something.
He's
off.
not.
He's definitely not, and I think Andy Reid being the person he is, and the people involved in that organization, I think that Jalen's going to get exposed, and it's going to be an unfortunate day for him. I don't think I see what the front four for Philly can do on defense. They're just out of control. Like that is just the best. I would say the best example of controlled violence I've seen in a while.
It is.
You know what I mean?
How do you?
Yeah,
all year.
Yeah, I mean it's just. But I'm going to say Kansas City. By 7.
I'll tell you what. Let's put lunch on it.
Okay, you got it. Shake on it.
All right. Where are we going? We're gonna go back to your spot.
Oh, the Blacktop Grill?
Blacktop.
Oh man, that's a good spot. Yeah,
it is.
I won't hesitate to go back there.
No.
All right.
Win, lose, or draw. I'll go back there. The Sonoran dogs are amazing.
They
amazing.
are.
Awesome.
They
Looking
really
forward
are.
to it.
So, all right, man. Well,
Awesome.
it was a pleasure having you here.
I loved it.
If
you guys are amazing hosts.
If you're looking for a church to go to here in the community, something to check out, go check out Vision Church. I've been there. I've seen Cole in his element. Great sermon. The connection was there. Just everything you have was just applicable to daily life and some of the stuff that I was feeling. And I know I could tell people in the audience were feeling it too, the ones that are your followers there. So again, we appreciate you listening. If you want to be on the podcast, go to localmarana.com, go to the podcast area, submit an interest form. If you're looking to advertise on this program, we are open to advertising. Reach out to us. We'll get you on. Have a good day.